Well, good afternoon, listeners. You're listening to Lament of Hope podcast with your host, Danielle Richardson, and I'm very excited today. I'm speaking with actress Lisa Brenner. She's also a producer and writer. She's done several things, but acting is probably one of the more prominent ones. She's done a lot of television shows. She has a reoccurring role in the Arc series, which you'd actually see on her Instagram. She's got a link to that as well. One of the ways that I really found out about her was from the movie The Patriot. It was one of her first roles. She played Anne Howard, and I love The Patriot, and I was super excited to get to connect with her and talk to her. Obviously, that was back in 2000, so she's done a lot since then, but that's kind of how I initially was introduced to her acting. Um, Lisa, I'm so just to start out, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, especially during the holidays and all of that.
Oh, thank you for asking me. It's very sweet. Thank you.
So, Lisa, I want to start, I was seeing that you do the writing, producing, the acting. Now that you've been doing, acting for a while, do you prefer to be a producer or a writer over acting, or is acting still like your passion, what you like to do the most?
It's really interesting because I started as an actor, obviously, but I did study writing in college. It's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about it recently. At that time, not to age myself, but like for to be a woman in the entertainment industry, all I thought I could be was an actress. Like as a kid that didn't grow up in the entertainment industry, no one in my
Hmm.
family. So all I saw of it were the actors. And I knew I loved it so much that that's really all thought I could do.
Hmm.
And then as I got older and I had children and my life, my priorities started shifting and it became about, well, what do I have time for? And what if I'm going to take time away from my girls who are like the most important thing in my life, it has to be something really important. And then I started producing my own work. And then I had way more control over when I worked, with who I was working, what kind of projects, what are
Yeah.
things that I can do that my children and I would be proud of.
Hmm.
And then the natural progression, then producing, which I loved, I love the whole business side of it, became about, okay, well, now I'm not receiving the type of projects that I really want to express. So I'm like, I'm going to start writing my own. And so it was just kind of like that was the progression. And then I started directing too, and I directed a bunch of short films just for complete fun with my family and a whole bunch of friends. And that's the type of work that I'm most proud of, even though it's stuff that maybe people haven't seen or will see yet, but it's me. It's my humor, it's my voice, it's my friends, it's my vision. And I've never experienced that type of autonomy before.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I do love acting. I directed something I acted in recently, but I have to say just everything. I love the writing, I love producing, and I love the acting, all for different reasons.
You did mention before about it, you thought that, women couldn't do anything else but the acting when in the entertainment industry. I mean, even now, obviously there's been a lot more films coming out with like female directors and female producers. Um, do you think that is that still something like when we see those come up on the credits, is that something that women are really fighting for? Like when they get their name on there, it's not like that was very easy to do, or is
Yeah.
it more now you think we're in a time where it's more common for women to be producers and directors as well?
It's such a good question. I think it's still something women have to fight for, and the reason why is because when producers want to see a person's body of work, and they see a woman doesn't have the type of body of work that a man who's been in the industry for so long, they have to prove that, okay, it's because I haven't been given the opportunity, but trust me, I will deliver. And there has been a huge shift right now in television shows where there is a movement to hire women. It's funny, in my last movie, the producers and I wrote this movie, we wanted a woman director, and it was very important to us. But because there was such a small group, it was such a handful, a small pool of women directors,
Hmm.
they were all busy. I couldn't get one. So I guess it's twofold. It is harder, and there's a smaller pool. It's still a boys' club, I think, when you go on certain sets, which is why I love my own sets, which
Yeah.
is why, and when I produce and direct, my sets are mostly women, and the stories are about women. Um, and that's what I feel most comfortable in, and that's what I want to promote, and having just a fun, creative, loving set that's not about the gender dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because and, if you don't want to answer this, is totally fine. But like the other day, I was watching Miss Congeniality with Sandra
Huh?
Bullock,
Yeah.
and you would see the guys in the film. It was so commonplace for them to like just slap ladies on the butt or slap guys on the butt as they were walking around. And I remember watching that, and I mean, obviously you're laughing because it's funny, but at the same time, you're like, they could never do that now. Like that wouldn't even be on a film thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, for you, like when you're talking about more comfortable on set, is it still, because I know obviously with Harvey Weinstein and a lot of other, things that have come out unfortunately with a lot of sexualization of women, like even in the workplace, not just in acting. Um, has that been your experience that that's still something you have to be watchful for? And so for you to do it with women and to
Mhm.
make stories with women, you just feel more safe and more that you understand each other better and
Yeah.
it's a better environment for you than working alongside guys.
Yeah, well, there has been such a huge change from the film sets that I grew up with, that just the things that were said, that
Yeah.
were just taken as just this is normal, would never be today. So I think film sets now there's such a different dynamic anyway. But I'm just talking, like when I say I feel more comfortable, it's just because really it's my people I've chosen. It's
Okay.
usually not like a bunch of strangers that I don't really know them. But I just think in general, and as a society in general, the things that my children are learning in school, the way my daughters express themselves and put up boundaries is something I was never raised with, especially not on a film set or in the workplace. It's incredible the change that's taken place, and I hope it keeps this way. I really do. I mean, I've done many sex scenes in my career, and I've never had an intimacy coordinator. I can't even imagine like what that would be like, or and how much more comfortable I would have felt, but it wasn't a thing. Um, and yeah, I have definitely been in situations like the type of Harvey Weinstein situation, not with him, definitely not with him, but
Yeah.
it was just kind of part of the the culture, and I thank God was never I stayed away from that, and I was never subjected to anything like that, but it was definitely just part of being an actor. And there was a director, they would laugh, they would call the actors the meat puppets, like that we were just like these objects. Um, that were hired, just pieces of meat basically, which is probably why I love producing so much
Yeah, because you're doing it yourself.
and writing. Because
Yeah.
I don't do that to myself and I don't do that to other actors. And I'm so sensitive to it. And I think like on my sets, and my husband too, my husband's a producer and director and writer. There's a very similar dynamic because my husband and I are so similar in our sensibilities. And, having daughters, it's just like we both would never treat another woman or man, it goes both ways, the way that women used to be treated
Yeah.
and men, because a lot of men have been, sexually assaulted or um, stigmatized or whatever. It goes both ways, but definitely the majority is women.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, I've always wondered, is it weird for you to do sex scenes with someone who's not like not your husband? Like, is that
It's
strange?
disgusting. Yes. It's so weird. It's so weird. It's just, there's no other way of saying it. It's just gross. I
So it
remember,
never gets easier, kind of thing.
no, but I remember my first time kissing a guy that when my husband and I were pretty seriously dating, and I got to make out with this really good looking actor. And I just remember just like the smell of him, like his pheromones or whatever. I'm just like, it's not my husband. Like, oh, like it wasn't my boyfriend. Like my body did not like that. And
Yeah.
it's acting. You just have to pretend, just like every other aspect of acting, but that's just kind of it's just gross.
Was
Yeah.
that like something you and your husband discussed, like when you got married? Was it like,
Yeah.
okay, he was like, okay, this is fine to do, kind of thing?
Yeah, well, we met as professionals. We met working together and he
Okay.
started as an actor, so he has such a different like understanding. He knows that it's part of the job and that, actors for the most part have no feelings for the other actor they're making out with. So he was always so fine with it. Although oddly enough, I said if he had to make out with someone, I don't know if I could deal with that. It's just funny, but that's
I
just
think
me.
that's sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have you worked with an intimacy coach recently, now that those are more of a thing?
No, because everything I've done recently has been more like comedy, family friendly type stuff. So
Okay.
it just hasn't come up.
Do you,
And also I'm wondering as, an older woman, if like, if I am in something of that there is a sex scene. It's definitely less for older women. If I would have to work with, I mean, I'm sure I would have to work with an intimacy coach. And I mean, that's so cool. It's so great that women and men have that to take away that level of uncomfortable, you know, awkwardness. It's
yeah.
cool. Because it's like when you break it down, when you're shooting and there's cameras and there's lights and, there's angles that you have to, hit your mark. It becomes just a dance. Like it becomes just another mechanical thing that you could map out.
Yeah, but you have to make it look not mechanical, so that's kind of the tricky part.
Yeah.
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 Do
That's the
you,
art.
yeah. Um, I mean, do you, when, for, 'cause you're right, older women, it's interesting because, like, Nicole Kidman, a few of the really big names lately who are older women have been in some movies or have been making movies, particularly to kind of highlight the older women dynamic.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, most people aren't that famous. There's only there's like a top tier of very, very famous actors,
Yeah.
and then everyone else is like actors, but we work. Like we're doing, it's not that they don't work, I don't imply that, but that, it's kind of like we do this, we work, we live a normal life. We don't have like that type of pressure, that type of fame.
Hmm.
Um, so for you as you get older, I mean, do you think that doors are gonna close more for you than they would for someone who's like top tier. And
Oh,
I
yes.
don't mean in talent, but just
Yeah.
because they, are better known.
1,000,000%. I mean, the doors or whatever auditions stopped coming once I was about 40.
Hmm.
And really, when I started producing, 1,000,000%. I was only getting audition. I went from the lead role of everything, the ingenue, the love interest, the one getting married, to the aunt, like Aunt Jill or whatever, whatever. The aunt that pops in for a few quirky lines and or just crying, like the mom who's just crying at home about her kid that's going on this adventure or whatever, the lead role. So I'm either the mom or the aunt. And it was so shocking to me. And because I live and breathe my work, I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't just, be the aunt every 6 months, And that's when I first started producing theater in LA, and then I started producing movies
Yeah.
and control. So yeah, and then, as I get older, the roles they change. So I need to find and create my own roles, which I have been, of things that women my age deal with, which just it's starting to happen. And I'm so happy about Nicole Kidman and like all these actors that are kind of like in all of these stuff and doing these sexual parts and like Jean Smart and Hacks. She's incredible and brilliant. And it's so cool to see her in a sex scene. Um, but yeah, if we want to see more of that, if we want ourselves to be represented, we have to create it ourselves because yeah, the doors, they definitely have closed. And in terms of like there's now no auditions anymore. There's self-tapes, which is insane to me as an actor and a producer and a writer and
Hmm.
director to only cast people off of either Zoom or a tape that is sent in.
Hmm.
I feel like, oh my gosh, it has limited the work for the middle ground actor because the good roles are just offers to the top tier talent. And the other actors, like the majority of the pool, have to send in self-tapes where they don't get an opportunity to work with the producer and the director
Hmm.
and to say, can you do it a little differently? Can you adjust this? That's what my life used to be. You
Yeah.
walk in the room, you have a conversation with them about the project, you work on the scene, you do it again, you make adjustments. And then you either get the part or not, but at least you've had a fair shot. We don't get that anymore. And it's so bad for the production and for the actor. But
Yeah.
it saves money. It saves money for casting. And I think it's really hurt actors
You know,
and
when you were talking about things that women your age deal with, and that's what you're trying to highlight, what kind of things in your life now do you find are very personal to you that are problems that you think a lot of women would relate to?
when I was just talking about this yesterday, just the complexity of either we're raising kids or not raising kids, but there's, children involved, career, um, parents, like they say that like around my
Hmm.
age, it's called the sandwich generation, where you're dealing with aging parents, where you're suddenly having to deal with all of that stuff, whether they're sick or, moving into retirement homes or whatever it is. um, it like life becomes so much harder and relationships and marriage or not marriage or dating. Um, it's just very different. And hormones, oh my God, hormones are a lovely, lovely thing. once you hit like, 40 and beyond, things just start changing and just trying to live life. Your body's changing, your mind is changing. There's so much, like life is just so much more intense and complicated. And that's the stuff that I like to see. I love seeing represented because then I learn. I learned from it, and then I can help someone else going through what I'm going through. If they
Yeah.
can see their truth in me, I think that's awesome. And it builds a community and things like perimenopause. I mean, now I looked up one thing on Instagram. Now my whole feed is perimenopause, but it's fun. It's fun because then you feel like you're not the only person going through it. And then you help each other. I mean, I
Yeah.
love the podcast that you talk about this stuff. It's so lovely. It's all about connection.
Yeah.
Because when you're the only person going, or you think you're the only person going through something, or, divorce, all these things that happen to people like older women, and how to deal with it. And what does life look like when your children are now in college and you've dedicated the past 20 years to them
Yeah.
and put your career on the line? Like, what do you do? Like, I'm so interested in seeing that. That's my passion. I mean, I do love, the Love is Blind type
Yeah.
shows like that for fun. But when I see drama, I want to see me. I want to see my age and that stuff.
What do you
So,
think is like the hardest thing you're dealing with in this season of your life that you haven't dealt with before?
well, I think it's the hardest, but it's also, I'm noticing it's becoming the most satisfying
Hmm.
creating my own work.
Okay.
Like, I've really come to a point in my life that if I want to work, I need to not only produce, but write my own stuff and maybe, act in it too. I think that has been the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around, but at the same time, as I said, I love producing. I love writing. Um, a word of advice that I would give to any like young actor is just try to write your own stuff and just write because what I've found in writing, it lets me be creative whenever I want to.
Yeah.
Whereas I never I never knew that I could do that. I thought that my creativity was based on someone else liking me and choosing me for a part. Now it's like I'm so frustrated. I need to do something. Okay, I'm going to write a short film. Like, I'm going to now produce this wacky little thing. And it's
The
so gratifying.
the vulnerability at all, is that the hard part of it, or the hard part of it is coming up with the ideas?
Um, I guess the actual doing it, the raising the money for it, the
Oh,
business
yeah.
side of it. I look back, it's like, oh God, I wish that I could just like show up on someone else's set and not have to do like A, B, C, D, to get there.
Yeah.
But it's so much more rewarding. It's so much more rewarding when it's your own thing. Like I'm having a little screening next week. I wrote and directed and acted a short film called Mary Licemas. And it's all my daughters, both my daughters are in it, and a bunch of my friends. And we're having this little pre-holiday screening because it's really about Christmas. I cannot wait for this. Like to me, it's like it's so exciting and fun and uplifting. It just makes my heart happy.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, and shooting with all of these people, there were a lot of strangers on set. We had the best 2 days, like just incredible. Everything was me. Like just the whole vibe of the set was me.
Hmm.
And because of that, it was so rewarding. It felt so good. And so after we do this screening, I'll figure out how to like release it into the world and hopefully it'll touch other people the way it touched me.
So when you
And I
release it into the world, but and it's not, do you have to find like a studio to back it up, or you're just
for a
gonna?
short film, not like short films you kind of just do for like the love of it. It's kind of like a donation to the arts. You're not going
Okay.
to make a penny from it. There are some opportunities I might have with some I don't want to list names of certain apps that do more Christmas stuff, but if I go that route, yes, I could make money off of it, but I would have to wait a whole year until the next Christmas season.
Oh,
So, yeah. So I think in this case, well, I'll just release it. My husband has a channel, a fast channel called Electric Now, where my other short film that I wrote and directed is on it. So that could be an avenue. Again, no money, but it's really just to get it out there and
yeah.
to share it.
Well,
Like
it
it really,
seems like you just love it. You don't really care too much about compensation.
no, no. Yeah, that's actually been a problem in my career because I will work for nothing. Like honestly, it's really just about the people and the project. And if they're good people, I'm like, yeah, I don't care if I'm paid anything. I will pay you to fly myself to wherever so that I could be part of this. And yeah, it has actually been a problem for me because I literally will work on well, anything good, not just anything, as long as they're good people.
What do you think so far in your career has been your favorite story to act in that you thought was really like engaging and personal and you felt like this story mattered?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's so many. Um, without giving away too much, I just wrote my first feature that we're releasing this year. So I would say that one. It's called One Big Happy Family. And for so many reasons, it's everything you just asked me. It is the most important thing to me because it's based on my own personal true story. Um, so because I wrote it, it is 100% in my voice and it's
Yeah.
my beliefs. And so far right now we just got it. It has a lot of I'm Jewish and it has a lot of Jewish content in it. And so we just got into the Miami Jewish Film Festival, which is the biggest Jewish film festival in the world.
Oh,
And
wow.
we're going to be their opening night movie, and it's going to be the world premiere in January. So I'm really excited about that because it is me. Like this movie is me. It's 100% me. But everything I've done has, there have been some movies I actually haven't seen that I've been in that I've just kind of like did favors to friends. But I've never done something that I'm like, I don't want anyone to see it. But I'm kind of proud of most of the work I've done, which I don't know if many actors could say that. When I was younger, the types of roles I was offered, I said no to like mostly everything had nudity, and I
Mm.
said no to all of that as a, 20 something actor. But now I could be very proud of that. As an older woman, as a mother, like just things, the choices I've made that I'm very proud of.
So you were more open to sex scenes when you were older than when you were young?
Well, I did sex scenes, but there was no nudity. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's funny, when I did this movie called Say My Name, which is a movie I produced, I was probably about 40 then. Yeah, I was in my 40s, definitely, because it wasn't that long ago. Yeah, I was definitely in my 40s. I was like, I want to do a sex scene and we could do nudity. My director, who's my good friend, he's like, no, you don't. So we did everything in shadows, but some like sick guy online, they like screenshotted and blowed up, like I think you could see some side something. crazy people, but that's the kind of stuff that I like to avoid
Yeah.
also.
Do you
I think
do you
creepy.
avoid it because of like your faith or is it because of your kids?
My own feeling of if I let me backtrack like the thing about nudity, because if I'm doing something where my character wasn't like the male gaze, like I'm not doing it to like to turn guys on, which would that's was the majority of the past, like in
Okay.
20s, like every friend of mine who did nudity, it's like they just want to kill themselves now because they were these very gratuitous, kind of gross things. But if it's a type of nudity that's part of the story, that's art, that's like that's a whole other thing to me.
Okay.
It used to not be that way. It was nudity is meant to turn men on in, back in the day. And that was just gross. I once I got this movie that I was supposed to film in France. And I got the part, and it was a period piece where I was a prostitute in a like an old Western type, like one of those like very kind of sexy brothel type thing. And I spoke to the director and I said, I just want to let you know that I'm not doing nudity. And he was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. No, this is not that type of movie." So I get the part, I'm preparing to leave for France, and I get a call from the director. We changed our mind. You need full frontal nudity. And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, I told you I'm not doing that. He's like, well, if you're not doing that, then you're fired. And just like, wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So they recast my part, and but that's how it was
I mean
back then.
that, but that's so brave of you to do that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously you're missing the opportunity, which would further your career in some way.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, some people are going to view that as, conservative, like to like you're not going with the times kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like nudity now is different than nudity then. And it was something that whenever it was asked of me was a pressure from men. Like it
Okay.
wasn't like, so we're doing this scene. It wasn't that. I remember one of the worst experiences I had. I remember I was in college. I was up for this huge movie. And it was between me and another girl. And I met the director and the lead actor, who was a pretty big name at the time. I had to read with him in the room. And they said, "Are you willing to cut your hair?" Because the character had like a short, like cool bob. I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And they said, "Well, are you willing to do full nudity?" And I was in college. I think I was 18 at the time, and I said no. And the two of them, the male actor and the director, started making fun of me in the room and saying, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Like and like the guy almost got naked in the room. He said the actual words, "I can't wait to free Willy." He literally said that. It was so disgusting. And I just felt so attacked and scared. And I'm just like, no, I'm not comfortable with that. And I've tried to be as, strong as possible without like breaking into tears. And I did the scene and anyway, I didn't get the part, and they told my agent it was because I gave them a hard time with me wanting to cut my hair. Like, no, that wasn't it. But in that
That's
situation,
slow.
yeah, yeah, and the movie got made, and the girl in it became very famous. And it really, like, it was kind of unbelievable to me. But in that situation, I couldn't say, like, who I am, me as a person. I couldn't say yes to that. That just felt disgusting to me and pressured. And like, if I did do that, it would have almost felt like a type of assault. Like it, that's how bad it felt.
Yeah.
But if I, yeah, and those were the situations of that time of Harvey Weinstein. That's how it was. And I just couldn't do that to myself. I don't know if it's conservative or just I couldn't do that to myself. It would be going against my own self-respect.
But if you were
And
18 at the time, I mean, how old was the guy that you were supposed to do it with?
he was around the same age. Yeah.
Okay, so you wasn't like a someone in their 30s. That would even be
No,
weirder.
no, no. No, the guy, the actor was about my age. Yeah, it wouldn't have been that, but that also was very normal at the time. These like crazy older, actors and these really young girlfriends actors. It's just, yeah. And now we see that and we're just like, that is so weird. That is so icky. But it's not how it always was.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you um when you were mentioning the film that's coming out at the
Mhm.
festival about your
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
um like for you in life, do you find that family is what's most important to you, you think?
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's like that's such a simple question, yet it's such a difficult question because yes, my family, my girls, my mom, like my husband are the most important things in the world. I would do anything. I would give my organs for them. But at the same time, I also need my work. That's always been a very big struggle for me, and that's always who I was as a kid. I actually started acting when I was 7 years old. It's just kind of something I knew I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It's who I am. It's always been my main drive. But
Hmm.
of course, I was given the choice, like if God like came down and said, you only have a choice of doing your career or your family, of course it would be my family.
Yeah.
But my work is so who I am as a person on some other level. Like, I think it makes me a better mother. It makes me a better wife. It makes me a better friend when I'm doing my thing. It makes
Yeah.
me feel good about myself, my self-esteem, just on every level. So I think they work together. Um, for men, it's always been so much easier because men are just expected to like work and you provide your
Yeah.
career, and it's very rare that they'll be like, so if if you had to choose, like men aren't ever asked that. I remember I was working on something recently and one of the producers was a woman and I was really just trying to make small talk with her, and she had left her 3 kids to work on this project for about 6 months.
Oh
And
wow.
and I said, and small kids too. And I said, is it hard for you? And she said to me, if I was a man, would you be asking me the same question? And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't mean that. I was really just because for me, it would be the hardest thing in the world. Like I wouldn't be able to survive. Like I would need like oxygen if I didn't have my girls near
Yeah.
me 6 months.
Well, I
So
think, I mean, it's the maternal instinct. It is different than a guy, you know?
yeah. Hmm.
I
I
think
think,
they feel it very keenly too, but it's just, men have always been taught for so long. I think it's starting to shift now, but, the majority, it's like you don't show emotions. So if you are upset or if you are feeling missing somebody, whatever, you don't, you pummel through. That's your job.
yeah.
Whereas, I mean, just women, I mean, we are more emotional, right? I mean, and so of course you like visibly can be distressed when you miss someone. But I think for guys, it's different. It's like they're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. And also when my husband and I, when we first had our first daughter, he thought he was going to be a stay-at-home dad and I was just going to go right back to work. And then all of a sudden, like biology takes over, where I'm like, I cannot leave this creature. She's mine. I, I, on a level that I could never have expected. And then him at the same time, this like very kind of old thing came into him where he's just like, wow, I need to provide. I need to. So he
Well,
became, yeah, like crazy provider. And I just became like the most maternal, like, no one touch my baby type thing. And still, it's I actually had my second child because I'm like, I'm so obsessed with my first one that maybe I should have a second one because I'll be less obsessed. No, it doesn't work that way. I'm just as obsessed with the second one as I am with the first one. And, even as we speak, it's like I know my little one's at school. It's probably lunchtime for her. My older one, she's actually in New York right now. I wonder what she's doing. It's like all of this is always going on a level that I don't know for a man if that happens. Like their literal cells were in me, like that,
yeah,
and you say like I actually still have their cells as part of me now and in my brain, and it's so incredible. It's so incredible. So yeah, it like working, it has changed and working so different from what I thought it was going to be versus what it is. And
yeah,
by the way, some women are able to do that. And I'm like, how? How? I wish I could just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to leave for, 5 months. I couldn't. So it
yeah.
it has hurt my career, I guess, or changed it, or I don't know. I don't
It
know that
doesn't
you.
seem to though, because it seems like, I mean, you're still doing your own stuff. I think that's what, like, hearing it from you, like, that's inspiring because I know for me, I don't have children yet, but if Lord willing that happens, I don't want to give up what I love. Like, this kind of, it's gonna have to look different. And I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
accept that because you can't, like you said, you can't give 100% like all the time to all these things. Like something, some season, your kids will have to be the priority. And so maybe you're not going to be like, you're doing one interview a month or whatever it is, you know? But it's like, I don't think as women we're called to have to give up passions and have children. It's like, why can't we combine both? Obviously, yes, you said, as you said before, it's like you have priorities. But I think we still have talents we've been given. So it's like we want to still utilize those at the same time. It's not like we shut those down and just, I don't even say just become a mother because I don't want to downplay being a mother. But it's like a
Mhm.
mother is so much more, like it's so inspiring, I think, to your children if they see their parents pursuing something they love. You know,
Mhm.
because then it's like when I grow up and I become a mother, I can still do the things that I love, you know, but
Yeah.
there's still that priority as well. But
Mhm.
I have felt, um, you know, in several religious communities, but also just in, um, internal pressure, I think, is that it's like you got to give up one or the other. It's got to just be one. You can't possibly do both.
Mhm.
Even I just internal, like your internal like pressure. I don't at least that's what I've experienced where it's like I gotta do that. Or like I have friends who I've seen and it's like they've devoted all to their children and they love that and I think that's beautiful. But at the same time I'm like, but that's not me. Like I don't want to give up storytelling. I don't want
Yeah,
to have to do that and I don't think I have to. But it's like I don't know if you've ever felt this or, you know, before, like you were kind of mentioning, but it's like there is a way to do both. And talking to you, it seems like you're just as happy, but even happier because you're doing the things you love on your own timetable as opposed to somebody else's.
absolutely. 100%. Yeah, when I'm doing both in my own way is when it feels the best. I can't imagine if I, got some show or whatever and had to leave for 3 months, if I would be feeling the same if it was the hugest lead role working with the hugest director or whatever, if I would be feeling the happiness and fulfillment that I get from being home, yet also writing and directing and doing my own thing in my own way. I
Mm.
honestly like that is when I feel most fulfilled. And believe me, when I first had my older daughter, it suddenly dawned on me because I was feeling so much pressure. Not only, yes, I don't know if it's religious or just like the other women in my family that you're supposed to give up your life, but I also felt it from like the other mothers at the preschool too. Like it's such a societal thing. And I remember a saying to my daughter, and she's like 2, it's like you can be anything. You can be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be, and then it's like, how can I say that to her when she's me? And it's like, well, yeah, you can do all of that until you have a kid and then you have to give it all up. Like, what? Like, I don't want to raise her that way. I want to be an example that yes, you can be anything, and you could be a mother, and you could do it both. And I'm going to try in my best way to show you that it can be done. It's
Mm.
definitely not in the way that I thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
but I'm actually I'm following my own rules and my own drive. My drive to work is so strong, but not in the way it used to be in my 20s when I was single and carefree and no children. And I'm just like, I'll go to, we're at South
Yeah.
Africa for 2 months, you know. It changes. And I love incorporating the girls in my stuff. Like I'll not only like will I write them parts and stuff, but just like when I first started producing plays, my daughter, who's now 18, she would sit in all the rehearsals. And we would have the rehearsals in my house,
Oh.
and she would sit and just take in all of, the creativity. And then she would tell me her notes, when she was like 5 years old. She would tell me, what she would be doing different. And I love to just have them near me. And I just believe that it can be done. Like I'm happier when they're near me. I'm happier. Like my older daughter's going to come with me to the film festival in January, and just I want her to see me in that light and for her to feel proud of me, because to me that's the most important thing, that they look at me and they're proud of me and my work, and that it inspires them to do the same. Because
Yeah.
yeah, another thing, like when you asked me about like, being this age, for my friends who did give it up, to just gave up everything, gave up work, now that their children are grown, it's like, what do they do? And to get back into the workplace,
I've seen
it's
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's such a struggle because it's like, what have you done for the last 18 years work-wise? And it's like, I raised a kid. Okay. Well, you're now in your 40s and we're gonna hire people out of school in their 20s. And so it's a problem for women, and then to redefine what they could do. And thankfully, with the internet and Zoom and all of that, there are more, work from home type situations, but like that's a problem that I never wanted to have to cross. I wanted to just keep doing it
Yeah.
because I don't want to have a midlife crisis, like who am I now that my children are grown, you know?
I
So
know, I agree with you. And I think, I mean, like you said, you already have little crises that come up anyway as you
exactly.
get older. Because,
Oh God,
I was gonna ask you, what do you miss about being younger that like you're at peace with it, or maybe you're still trying to get at peace with it, but something about being younger that you miss, maybe about your body or about your energy level or your mindset? Is there something about your younger self that you wish you still had, but you know you can't get back?
I would think the only thing is this idealism, like of like the world is a certain way. And I don't know, just this the drive I had as an actor when I was younger was so unobstructed. It was all about me. It was all about my path. And I don't know, it just because life gets so complicated, I couldn't really say like body stuff because I don't know. I haven't thankfully gone through like a lot of the stuff like women like they're like, oh, my baby destroyed my body. Thankfully, I never had that. I'm proud of my body and who it is at this at this
Good for
stage.
you. Always feel that way.
Thank you. Thanks. And the fact that like I still do yoga and all of that. So but yeah, I am happier now older than I was in my 20s because there's also just like there's this like kind of fear of like who am I going to marry and how many kids am I going to have and where am I going to live and all of these questions of like what's my life going to look like? I just like that stress that I'm very happy I don't have anymore, you know? Or just I don't know. I also get to live vicariously through my daughters that are like, because they're just like so wide-eyed, the world is my oyster type thing. So I get to feel that through them.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I don't really have, I'm happier now than I think I was in my 20s. Really.
that's awesome. You know, because I gotta say, with a lot of, I don't know, it's just you seem like a very content person. I don't think that's very common, to be honest. And so
Hmm.
it's so neat to
I
hear
love,
that
I love
contentment coming through.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you used the word content. I just had this conversation with someone the other day. I think our society is so happiness driven that
Yeah.
like you have to be happy. You have to be happy. And I believe that happiness is such a fleeting emotion. We have moments of happiness. Like, there's days, moments where like you get a phone call or something fun happens or my
Yeah.
daughter. There's these moments of happiness, but what we really should be striving for is contentment. And
Yeah.
there's moments of happiness and there's moments of sadness and stress and anxiety, and it's just kind of everything. And that we should be okay with all of our emotions. It's been taking me a long time to really embrace that that's truly happiness is contentment. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting that you use that word because I was just saying that. And I think like I see it so much with the younger, like my daughter's younger, like my older daughter's friends, a lot of them are on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication at really young ages. And it hurts my soul because a lot of them I've seen where they've started and this medication has these side effects and this has this side effects and now they need another medication and like this one friend of my daughter's is just like a spiral and
Yeah.
I knew what the root cause was but they never dealt with that, her parents never dealt with that. um yeah, but just understanding that like anxiety is part of life and don't be scared of it. Let's embrace it. And you don't have to be happy all the time. It's okay to feel depressed and it's okay to feel sad. Just like validating the entirety of the human experience.
Yeah, I
That's,
think you're right.
yeah,
Well, 'cause you're, like you said, I mean, there's a difference between, okay, this person is anxious all the time. This
right.
person is
Right.
depressed all the time. But it's
Mhm.
different when, like you said, when hormones are changing, we're so quick to go, you should just get a medication and you'll be okay. It's like, well,
Right.
actually, maybe they're just, is there any way we could work through this without that? Like, are they going through a season where they don't have as many friends? Are they struggling with, is there a lot of turmoil in the home, which would suggest that, yeah, of course they're going to be sad and feeling, depressed? Or are they, go starting a new school, so they're really anxious and suddenly they're not eating a lot or whatever it is? I
Right.
agree with you that dissecting the problem is really not that's not the focus anymore. It's more like, well, let's just take care of the symptoms and then everyone will feel better. It's like, well, actually, that'll just, whatever it is will come back. Like the symptoms, yeah, medicine will help with the symptoms, but what if that's not really the problem? So then that's not going to help them.
Right.
So I
Mhm.
totally agree with you. It's
Yeah.
true. It's really sad because as you said, I mean, I have myself met very, very young kids who are on medicines, and it's sad because sometimes when you talk to them, it's like all they really want is just to be loved, or they're
Oh.
just missing that person in their life or whatever it is. And it's
Mhm.
not so much like an ADHD problem as it is like they don't really have anyone who's watching them or giving them attention. And so the only way to get any attention is to be really energetic and make a lot of noise and problems, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So,
mean, definitely there are children and adults that are clinically depressed and have serious anxiety. And oh my,
yes, yeah.
yes, medicine, thank God for it. But I think that our society right now is very over medicated. And but my thing is that it's because I think there was a book, Prozac Nation, that was it was about a very similar thing. Like when Prozac first started, it's like everyone wanted to be on it because now everyone's going to be happy. And it
Yeah.
just like, take a pill, take a pill, take a pill. Like, no, and if you're feeling sad or feeling down or feeling depressed, then you need that because, that's how you're supposed to be. And like, no, I think we're just meant to feel contentment at our best when we're mentally healthy, physically healthy. Contentment should be the goal, not happiness.
Yeah. Well,
Next.
Lisa, I'm so grateful. And I have to say, for me as a young person, it's very inspiring to talk to you. And I hope that when I'm your age, I have the contentment you have, as well as just the joy of doing work with your children. I think that's beautiful. And so I'm really excited. I hope we get to see some of this work you're talking about that you
Yeah.
get to do, because I'd love to see it.
Yes. Well, hopefully, One Big Happy Family will be released in 2025. Not sure what platform yet, but that will be coming out next year. And I'll figure out something with my other little shorts. But
Well, you can count me as I will be watching it whenever it comes out.
thanks so much. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, Lisa. This was awesome.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.